What would you say if a cop suddenly shined a UV light into your car and started scanning your seats, your console, and your floorboards? If you say the wrong thing or move the wrong way, that little beam can turn a simple stop into a full search fast. And once they get inside your car, your night can go downhill in seconds. Hit subscribe right now because what I'm about to show you could keep you from giving away your rights during the most stressful moment of a traffic stop. Smash like too, because you will forget these lines unless you hear them now and save this video for later. Here's what you're about to learn. First, what to do with your hands the second that UV light hits your car. Second, the exact words that stop you from talking your way into a bigger problem. Third, the one sentence you must say before an officer ever opens your door or reaches inside. And fourth, how to shut down the extra delay that turns a short stop into a full investigation. Most people have no idea that a weird light changes the whole mood of a traffic stop. Once that beam starts moving across your seats and cup holders, the officer is no longer just watching you. They're looking for a reason. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos and the same pattern keeps showing up. Drivers panic, drivers reach, drivers explain too much. And then the stop keeps growing. Let me show you exactly how to stop that from happening to you before your own stress helps build the case. When you see that UV light, your brain wants to do something fast. You want to move your phone. You want to grab your wallet. You want to slide a bag onto the floor. You want to point out what the officer is looking at before they ask. That is the trap. Here's the reality. The light itself is not what hurts you most. Your reaction to it is if you start moving around while that officer is already scanning your car, every little motion can be described as suspicious. They may say you were hiding something. They may say you were reaching for something. They may say your behavior made them fear for their safety. Watch what happens when your body moves before your brain slows down. A basic stop turns into a command to step out. Then it turns into questions about what you touched. Then it turns into a request to search. You need a plan simple enough to use when your hands are shaking and your heart is pounding. Your first move is to make your hands boring and your words simple. The second you see that UV beam cross your car, put both hands high on the wheel and keep them there. If it is dark and you can safely do it without digging around, turn on your dome light. You want the officer to see that you are not fumbling with anything. Here's exactly what you say. Officer, my hands are on the wheel. Please tell me before you want me to reach for anything. Word for word. Memorize that line. That sentence helps you in 3 ways right away. First, it shows you are not being sneaky. Second, it makes the officer give you instructions before you move. Third, it creates a clean record if their camera is running. Former police officers have confirmed this works because officers are trained to watch your hands before almost anything else. If your hands disappear, tension goes up. If your hands stay visible and you ask for directions first, tension often drops. Bad way. Most drivers say, hold on, I'm just getting my wallet while reaching across the seat or into the glove box. Then the officer gets alert, tells them to stop moving, and starts treating every motion like danger. Good way. Smart drivers say, officer, my hands are on the wheel. Please tell me before you want me to reach for anything. Then the officer sees control, hears calm, and loses the easy claim that you are making risky moves. This is 100% legal. You are not refusing to cooperate. You are asking for safe, clear instructions before you move in a tight space that the officer is already inspecting. Texas v. Brown is important here. In plain English, the Supreme Court said officers can use a flashlight to look into a car from a lawful spot outside it, and what they can plainly see can matter. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings, so your job is not to argue about the light. Your job is to stop giving the officer extra reasons to escalate. If that beam is UV instead of white light, your smartest move stays the same. Keep your hands visible, keep your movements slow, keep your words short. That is how you stop a weird tool from becoming a bigger problem for you. There's another reason this first line matters. When you say it, you quietly take control of your own movements. Instead of acting on panic, you are forcing the stop into a slower rhythm. That helps you think. That helps your passenger stay calm. That helps your actions match your words. And that matters because if the stop gets reviewed later, your calm opening line can look a lot better than nervous reaching and fast explanations. You do not need to sound smart here. You need to sound safe. You need to sound easy to deal with. That first line buys you that. Have you ever had an officer shine a bright light into your car and instantly make your stomach drop? Drop a comment below, because I want to know if you stayed calm or if your brain went blank. Now let's talk about the next mistake that gets drivers in trouble every day. Once the officer sees you are not making wild movements, the questions start. They sound casual, but they are not casual at all. What's in that bag? Why is your seat messy? Where are you coming from? Why are you so nervous? Do you have anything illegal in the car? Listen closely because this is critical. Those questions are not there to help you. They are there to get you talking. And the more you talk, the more you give them to work with. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it cuts off the little statements that get twisted later. Here's exactly what you say. Officer, I'll provide my license, registration, and insurance, but I'm not answering questions. Word for word. Memorize that line. This works because it sounds calm and respectful. You are still giving the documents you are supposed to give. You are not yelling. You are not insulting anybody. You are just refusing to hand over a story. And that story is what often keeps the stop alive. If you say you came from a friend's house, they ask which friend. If you say the bag belongs to your cousin, they ask why it is in your car. If you say you are nervous because of the UV light, now they start asking why that light makes you nervous. Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. A lot of investigations are built from normal people trying too hard to sound innocent. Bad way. Most drivers say, there's nothing in that bag and I'm just tired and I was only at my friend's place for a minute. Then the officer gets new topics, new details, and new chances to catch a mismatch. Well, good way. Smart drivers say, officer, I'll provide my license, registration, and insurance, but I'm not answering questions. Then the officer gets less material, less confusion, and less room to stretch the stop with your own words. Here's the reality. You do not beat a roadside fishing trip by sounding friendly enough. You beat it by staying disciplined. The officer may act surprised. The officer may say, so you don't want to cooperate? The officer may repeat the question in a softer voice. None of that changes your script. You can calmly repeat, I'm not answering questions. That is enough. You do not explain your rights. You do not give a speech. You do not say, my lawyer told me to say this. The cleaner your line, the stronger it is. Berghuis v. Thompkins matters here. In plain English, the Supreme Court said, if you want to rely on your right to stay silent, you should say so clearly. Silence alone can get messy. A clear statement works better. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection because your mouth is often what keeps the stop growing. If you shut that down early, you protect yourself fast. And yes, if the officer lawfully orders you out of the car, you comply physically. Pennsylvania v. Mims says officers can usually order drivers out during a lawful stop, but your compliance with movement does not mean you have to answer questions that can hurt you. Your body can cooperate while your words stay protected. That balance matters more than you think. Now we get to the line in your title. This is the sentence you need before they enter your car, before they open your door, before they reach inside, and before they ask, in that fake casual voice, whether you mind if they take a quick look. Here's exactly what you say. Officer, I do not consent to any entry or searches of my vehicle, word for word. Memorize that line. That sentence matters because consent is one of the fastest doors into your car. If an officer asks, you don't mind if I check this real quick, right? And you say yes, your whole legal position gets weaker. If you say maybe, that can still sound like yes. If you say, I guess that's fine, that can become consent too. You need a hard, clean line. No extra words, no apology, no nervous laugh, just the sentence. Bad way. Most drivers say, I mean, I don't have anything, so I guess that's okay. Then the officer opens the door, starts moving things around, and your chance to challenge that later gets much weaker. Good way. Smart drivers say, officer, I do not consent to any entry or searches of my vehicle. Then the officer knows your position is clear and your rights stay intact if the stop keeps going. This is 100% legal. You never have to give permission for an officer to search your car just because they asked politely. Schneckloth v. Bustamonte is the case you need here. In plain English, the Supreme Court said a search can be valid if you voluntarily consent. That means your nervous yes can do huge damage later. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. That is why this sentence is not optional. It is your firewall. Now be smart about what this line does and does not do. It does not guarantee the officer will walk away. It does not magically stop every search. If they claim they smell drugs, or say they see evidence in plain view, or say they have another legal reason, they may search anyway. But your refusal still matters. It shows you did not invite the search. It helps your lawyer later. It keeps you from gifting them the easiest legal shortcut. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and one of the biggest differences between strong cases and weak cases is whether the driver clearly refused consent. That one sentence can matter for months after a 30-second stop. And timing matters too. Do not wait until the officer's hand is already on your door handle if you can avoid it. If you see the stop shifting from traffic issue to investigation, say the line early and calmly. Say it once. If needed, say it again. Then stop. Do not fill the silence. Do not explain why. Do not say, it's my constitutional right, even if that is true. Short wins, clean wins, repeatable wins. That is how you protect yourself when that UV light becomes the setup for entry. If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of most drivers. Show me you're serious by hitting that like button, because the next move is the one that stops the endless delay after the questions and the search request. Now let's talk about how to end the stop before it turns into a waiting game. This part is where drivers get trapped because they think the hard part is over. The officer has your papers. The officer ran your name. The officer asked weird questions. Maybe the UV light came out. Maybe the search request came out. Then nothing happens. You just sit there. Another minute passes. Then another. That is the danger zone. Watch what happens. The longer you sit there in confusion, the easier it is for the stop to grow into something else. This is when you need to force clarity with one simple question. You look at the officer and say this: am I being detained or am I free to leave? Those exact words. Memorize that line. That question matters because it makes the officer choose. Either the stop is done and you can leave, or the officer says you are still detained, which means they need a legal reason to keep you there. You are not being rude. You are not picking a fight. You are simply asking whether the stop is over. Former police officers have confirmed this works because it forces the officer to stop drifting and state the next step clearly. Bad way, most drivers say, "So are we done here?" or they sit there silently, hoping the officer will suddenly let them go. Then the stop drags on and gives the officer more time to look for a new angle. Good way, smart drivers say, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Then the officer has to make the stop clear instead of stretching it with vague delay. Rodriguez, the United States, is the key case here. In plain English, the Supreme Court said police cannot drag out a traffic stop longer than needed just to look for more crimes unless they have a proper legal reason. That means time matters. Your question makes time matter out loud. Let me show you exactly why this line is so powerful. It stops you from sitting in legal fog. It makes the stop either move toward release or move toward a reason the officer must own. And if the officer says you are still detained, do not argue on the roadside. Do not try to win there. You keep your hands calm. You stop talking. You keep refusing consent if needed. If they tell you to step out, you comply physically. Your goal is not to beat them in debate. Your goal is to keep the record clean and protect your position. Here's the reality. The stop often gets worse when drivers start lecturing or getting sarcastic right here. Stay boring. Boring is powerful. Boring is safe. Boring is hard to twist on camera. So let's tie the law together in simple English so you can remember it when the pressure is on. Texas v. Brown means an officer can use a light to look into your car from outside if they are lawfully there. In your world, that means you do not freak out over the beam itself. You control your hands and your movements. Berghuis v. Thompkins means if you want to stay silent, say it clearly. In your world, that means you do not just clam up and hope. You use your line. Schneckloth v. Bustamonte means if you consent to a search, that consent can make the search legal. In your world, that means your sentence refusing entry or search can save your whole position later. Rodriguez v. United States means the stop cannot be stretched forever without a real reason. In your world, that means your question about being detained or free to leave is a powerful tool. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection when you use these lines together because each one closes a different door the officer may try to open. Now picture the whole stop so you can feel how this works in real life. You get pulled over at night, the officer walks up and suddenly shines a UV light through your window. The wrong way starts fast. You grab your wallet early, you slide your backpack with your foot, you say, "There's nothing weird in here, I swear." The officer notices the movement. Then they ask what is in the bag, you start explaining, then they ask to take a quick look, you say yes because you want to seem cooperative. Now the door opens, your car becomes their workspace, and your own fear helped build the whole path. Now here is the right way. You pull over and put your hands on the wheel. If you can safely do it, you turn on the dome light. The UV beam moves across your seats, and you say, "Officer, my hands are on the wheel. Please tell me before you want me to reach for anything." Then you wait. When the questions start, you say, "Officer, I'll provide my license, registration, and insurance, but I'm not answering questions." Then the officer pushes for a look inside. You say, "Officer, I do not consent to any entry or searches of my vehicle." Then the traffic issue seems done, but the officer lingers. You ask, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" That sequence keeps your body calm, your mouth protected, and your rights alive. It does not promise a perfect stop, but it does stop you from helping turn a bad stop into a worse one. Next week, I'm revealing what to say when cops claim they smell weed after they shine lights into your car. Subscribe so you don't miss it, because that line gets drivers trapped every single day. Burn these 4 moves into your memory right now. Keep your hands visible and ask for instructions before you reach. Give your documents, but do not give your story. Refuse entry and searches clearly before the officer opens your door or reaches inside. And if the stop starts dragging, ask whether you are detained or free to leave. You do not need perfect nerves to protect yourself. You need simple lines you can still remember when your chest is tight and your thoughts are racing. That is the power of a script. It keeps you from panicking, it keeps you from oversharing, and it keeps you from opening the door with your own words. Hit subscribe so you catch that next video before you need it. Smash like if this just gave you a real plan for your next traffic stop. And drop a comment telling me which line you're going to memorize first. Stay safe out there and keep your mouth from doing the officer's job for them.